Hey guys, thanks for coming on. I'll wait just a couple of seconds and let some more people come in. All right, happy Monday. I always get to talk to you guys after fabulous Mondays. I have a pinned comment down here so you can see who I am and also see if you have product questions for Luna. Feel free to look at the pinned comment and I have her email there if you have questions about any of the Legendary Milk products, since I don't know or I'm not qualified to answer those questions. All right, thanks for coming on, everybody. Hopefully kids are in bed or at least calm so that you can hear and listen for a little bit. But I want to take a second and thank Luna again for letting me come on here. She lets me do these monthly and I get to talk about all kinds of things that nobody likes to talk about but are super important to make us feel whole again. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on that, but just wanted to thank her again. And so I should introduce myself. I'm Lacey. I am a pelvic health physical therapist, and I have my own practice here in Keller, Texas, and then I run Under the Womanhood on Instagram, where I post tons of tips and some personal things every now and then, but lots of pelvic health tips. So hi, everybody that's waving. Oh my goodness, 2 a.m. in Sweden. Bless you. Thanks for coming on. And so just so you guys know, if you're not able to stay on the whole time, or if it's 2 a.m. and you'd like to go to bed, this will be saved for 24 hours unless I mess something up when I'm ending it. But it should be saved for 24 hours so you can watch it tomorrow or whenever. So, so I'm a pelvic health physical therapist. Oh yeah, on Under the Womanhood, I post a lot of things here lately. I've been a little spotty because things have been crazy, but I usually post pretty regularly, so you can head over there. I also have a blog that's typically linked with a bunch of information. So, and if you have questions that you don't feel like you want everyone to see on here, you can always email me or direct message me on my account over there, and I will do my best to get back to you, or at least give you the resources that you need. So I'm so glad you all are here. Thanks for coming. So regarding questions, I usually try to take them at the end, unless I just happen to see one and it's relevant to what I'm talking about. I will go ahead and answer, but I usually scroll through at the end and make sure I get to everybody's question, because sometimes when I look at the comments, I get distracted and lose my train of thought, so I usually just go back through. All right, so today we are going to talk about bowel health, and I know, I get to talk about all the fun things. So bowel health is important, our entire lives, but it's especially important and sometimes an issue during pregnancy and in the postpartum period. So I'm going to talk about define what normal bowel movements are, and then talk about constipation, and then, why does it happen during pregnancy? And then I'm going to give you guys a ton of tips for preventing constipation or straining, and also, if you do struggle with constipation, these things will also help you, but then I'll give you a couple more tips to help remedy the constipation. And then we will talk about hemorrhoids and how to help manage those guys. So stay tuned, get out a pen and paper if you need to, jot these down. I have high hopes of getting these on the blog one day, the videos or just a blog post. So, but in the meantime, I would suggest taking notes if this information is relevant. And it's helpful not only to you guys, but also your kids, your partners, boys, girls. These are things that will help anybody poop better. So y'all let me know, ask questions along the way, and again, I will thumb back through and answer them at the end. So, all right, so let's get started. Bowel health, normal bowel movements are at least one time a day, and this varies from person to person. It can be from multiple times a day to once every 3 days, but I usually, when I see my clients, I try to have them get them going at least once a day, because there's a lot of not so great things that happen when you don't go every day. And I meant to bring my pelvic floor model up here to show you guys my little skeleton model. But when you don't go every day, or you are constipated, you tend to hold stool in your rectum, which sits in your pelvic floor, or in your pelvic cavity. And I use my hands a ton when I do these talks. If some of you have been here before, you know that. But so the pelvic floor sits like a bowl in the bottom of your pelvis, and it surrounds your vaginal opening, your rectum, and your urethra, where urine comes out. So all of those openings are surrounded by the pelvic floor, and they control that. So with that, where your anus is, your rectum is there above it. So if you're carrying around a lot of stool in your rectum, then it's going to place a lot of pressure downward on your pelvic floor. And over time, that might increase the risk of prolapse and constipation and things that aren't great. So that's why I try to get everybody going about once a day, just for that reason. And I don't know if that's research-based. That's just my experience and my thinking. So let's see. So normal bowel movements, 1 every day on average. Constipation is 3 or less bowel movements a week, or you're having trouble defecating, like you're straining, or you have difficulty emptying your bowels completely. So that's all kind of the definitions of constipation and normal bowel movements. So during pregnancy, probably many of us experienced constipation, or just like changes in our bowel movements, because our hormones are rocked. We get a huge influx of estrogen and progesterone, and I'm trying to say these words correctly. Progesterone is the culprit in causing constipation, because it slows down your colon motility. And so then you kind of develop and accumulate stool in your colon. So progesterone is kind of the guy there that's causing the issues. And then later on in pregnancy, you have increased weight of the baby on your intestines, which doesn't give them as much room to move or as much circulation. So then things get stuck in there. So it's important to try and manage constipation if you're developing it during pregnancy by doing these things I'm going to mention, but I'm also going to just kind of go into postpartum talk a little bit before I do that. But you want to try to nip it in the bud when you're pregnant, so that you don't continue to have those issues postpartum, or you don't develop hemorrhoids during pregnancy, which will cause issues delivering during labor and delivery, and then having your bowel movements postpartum. So whether you've had a C-section or a vaginal birth, learning how to keep your pooping regular and learning how to get over the fear of that first poop is key in subsequent bowel movements. But if you had a C-section, it may or may not have been planned, and you may have tried to push for several hours or labored for several hours. So there's a lot of pressure on your pelvic floor, and just carrying the weight around the baby for 9 or 10 months is hard on your pelvic floor. And so you need to kind of learn how to use those muscles again, so that you aren't causing yourself issues or hemorrhoids or pain down the road. And if you had a vaginal birth and you had an episiotomy, or you tore, or you just pushed for so long, and so long could be 5 minutes to however many hours. So so that first bowel movement, and then on down the road, you may have issues with having normal bowel movements or not having pain with bowel movements. So either whatever way you birthed, learning some good pooping mechanisms will be helpful. I was terrified to take my first poop. Anybody else? Any hands? Any brave souls to say that they were scared? I was just, I had a grade 1 tear, and I was like, I don't know what's going to happen when I go to the bathroom. Okay, good. It's frightening. So I had a great doula, and I'm glad I'm not the only one. Good. Good, but also bad. But we're in this together, right? But I had a great doula, and she was like, Lacey, this is what you got to do to prevent hemorrhoids. And I was like, okay, because after you have your baby, you're like, I don't even know if I slept today, did I drink water? So it's helpful to kind of have these tips already planned out, or somebody telling you, do this or do that, because you're just not in the realm of thinking for yourself sometimes after birth. I mean, I wasn't anyway. So, okay, moving on. This is a part where you might want to just jot down some things, some notes, just for reference if you want to prevent constipation or straining with bowel movements, or if you end up developing any of constipation symptoms. So, all right, what you will need, these are in no particular order because they're all pretty important, but a stool or a squatty potty. Putting a stool or using the squatty potty under your feet allows your knees to move. I'm going to try to use my fingers to show you. So like if this is your bottom, these are your knees. Using the stool allows your knees to move above your bottom. Like if you were squatting to the floor, your butt's lower than your knees. That's the ideal position to have a bowel movement, or to sit on the toilet, because that eliminates activation of your pelvic floor. So it basically it puts it on a stretch, or just kind of inactivates the pelvic floor, so that you're not fighting against pelvic floor tension when you have a bowel movement. So if you were like me and terrified of having that first bowel movement, I was probably tense and not letting go because my anxiety was taking over. So if you're able to use something like that, that will kind of counteract the fear and the pelvic floor tension that you might be carrying into the bathroom with you. And that is good during pregnancy, really for the rest of your life. A lot of other cultures, have toilets on the ground, and it's for that reason, because it's just better mechanically. Your stool has a straighter shot into the toilet, because if you're sitting, and I'm going to try to show you guys, if you're sitting with a rounded back, your poop kind of has to come up out against gravity and then down. But if you're sitting up with a straight back, your pelvis is not curved under, and then your knees are up, your poop's just going to shoot straight out there. I mean, that's the goal anyway, without any straining. So that is a very helpful tool to use. So using a stool or a squatty potty, or turning a trash can over, anything that you can put under your feet, a few books, whatever, your child, I'm just kidding. But they're always in the bathroom with you, right? I'm totally kidding. So using a stool or something hard to put your feet up on to allow your knees to get in that position will be helpful to inactivate your pelvic floor and allow you to have a bowel movement without straining. I'm glad somebody laughed at that. Okay. So the next thing, and this may be number one actually, but drinking adequate water. So consuming more water than you think is humanly possible. So I think my midwife, she recommended like a gallon of water for me to drink because I was breastfeeding. So still people are laughing. Okay. I'm glad you guys understand my humor. So drinking enough water, because you're breastfeeding, and so you're expending a ton of energy. Your body is draining all kinds of water out of you. So you need to replenish that with even more water. So I usually recommend, just in general, like half your body weight in ounces. So that is different for everybody, obviously. And, drinking a gallon a day may not be appropriate for you. So, check with your healthcare provider and make sure that's okay with your electrolyte levels and all that stuff. I just always hesitate to give you guys dietary recommendations without knowing your history, but water intake is important, and half your body weight in ounces is kind of on the low end. So you can always start there and then go up if that feels healthy for you. And plain water is the best thing. So don't drink these carbonated drinks. Try not to put flavor in your water. If you do need a little flavor, lemon water is fine, or the cucumber water, or the fancy water is good too. Like with all the fruit and mint and all that stuff in there, that's totally fine. But when you start adding Crystal Light or any of those little sugary packets, your body's going to have to expend more water to digest that. So just drinking plain water is the best thing. Always have it beside you when you're breastfeeding. I know I would just die of thirst. Even like as soon as my kid latched, I would just have to gulp it down. So it's not only good for breastfeeding, but it's really, really, really important for your bowel movements. I don't know, I'll kind of go over, how stool moves through your colon. So when it forms in your colon, it basically, your colon just squeezes out the excessive water and it absorbs that water. So you have to have some backup water in the stool so that it doesn't dry out and get really hard and then cause constipation. So you have to replenish and bulk up that stool, make it slide a little bit easier through there with more water that you intake. So water, water, water. All right, and then fiber is important because you need to bulk up your stool to help it move through your colon better. So the recommended daily intake is 23 grams of fiber a day, which is quite a bit depending on your diet. So 23 grams of fiber, and you don't want, if you're not really getting any fiber right now, try to increase it slowly. So start out wherever your baseline is, just go up 5 grams a day, something like that if you can. That way you're not going to get any bloating, or it can cause constipation, any gas or anything like that. Hi, Brittany. Sorry, I got distracted. So definitely get plenty of fiber, but don't increase it too quickly. And with the fiber, if you are getting a ton of it, we're going back to the water, it is super important to supplement that fiber intake with water. You have to have enough water because that fiber can make your stool hard. So, and I usually recommend this through food, not supplements. So if you can kind of spread it out through your meals in the day versus just taking a supplement once, that's better. So fiber. The next thing is a probiotic. Our body is going through tons of changes, and after having a baby, our hormones are all off and just adjusting to the new normal or new temporary normal. So having a probiotic will help improve the flora of your colon and help things digest a little bit better so that you don't get any bloating, diarrhea, and constipation. And the brand that I have always been recommended by healthcare professionals is, I think you say it Jarrow or Jarrow. I'm going to type it in a comment. But double check it if you have any dairy allergies or any intolerances. Check the ingredients and make sure that doesn't contain dairy, because I'm not quite sure. I started taking a probiotic one time, or I started to take it, and I looked at the ingredients and there was dairy in it, and my little boy was dairy intolerant, so I couldn't take it while I was breastfeeding him. So I'm going to type it in here. It's Jarrow, and that's the brand of probiotics. They have a few different brands. They have a Femdopolis that's more for vaginal health, but I think they just have like a regular one too. Okay, and then this is really important too. So understanding pelvic floor movement and how to relax it and control your pelvic floor when you're having a bowel movement. I briefly talked about this when I mentioned the squatty potty or having a stool under your feet, where that helps to eliminate muscle activation. But if you have a very tense pelvic floor, or one that's just hyperactive, or you don't really understand how to control it, which is very common, this technique will hopefully help you with that. And if I need a balloon because this is my example, but I don't. So my midwife, when I was preparing to go into labor, towards the end of my pregnancy, she told me about using a balloon to practice blowing, because that helps to relax our pelvic floor. And surprisingly, it does. And it's kind of an easy way, instead of trying to figure out all the mechanics and all that stuff, just grab a balloon, and when you're having a bowel movement, blow up the balloon. So you think about when you blow up a balloon, you take a deep breath in, and then you are blowing the balloon up. So you're blowing through you're kind of forcing your air out, or it's like a resisted airflow. So that resisted airflow allows your pelvic floor to descend and relax, but without bearing down. So you're not creating a poor pressure system. You are relaxing the pelvic floor, and then you're using your breath to continue to push out the contents of your bowels. So practice that. Like when you're having a bowel movement, it's kind of hard to do it when you're seated because if you really wanted to practice it correctly, you don't want to poop in your seat. So so get on a toilet and practice that when you do have a bowel movement, if you find the need to push to get it started. But after you kind of get things started in that initial urge and that motility starts to push the stool on out, then just try to breathe normally. Try to keep that urge going by breathing normally. Or you can do diaphragmatic breathing, which is basically just inflation of your stomach where your diaphragm moves down and your pelvic floor moves down too. So when you breathe in, hopefully you can guys see my stomach a little bit. So breathing in, diaphragmatic breathing is going to push your stomach out, and you should feel that pelvic floor just continue to relax and somewhat bulge, but not in a negative way. You're just reaching a point of relaxation that's appropriate to evacuate your stool. Does that all make sense? I know I'm blabbing this out super fast. So let me know if anything doesn't make sense or if I'm using words that are ridiculous or something. Okay, so, and then along with the balloon and that whole technique is jaw relaxation. So a tense jaw. So a lot of times we get on the toilet and we're having constipation. We're going to just like strain and get it out. Well, if you have a tense jaw, that is actually related to a tense pelvic floor. There's research to actually prove it. So when you're going to the bathroom, try to relax your jaw to the state of, like, when they look at the back of your throat where you're saying, ah, you want to kind of open up the back of your throat so that jaw is nice and relaxed. And that will help your pelvic floor relax too. So give that a go. All right. Two more things for preventing constipation or just kind of overcoming a bout of it is having warm food in the morning. So that can be warm food or warm drinks. A lot of people say, I have my coffee in the morning and then I go and I'm good to go. And that's fine. And if that keeps you normal, more power to you. I'm the same. I have my coffee. I'm not going to shame anybody for having coffee. I totally get it. But caffeine, if you're having caffeinated coffee, actually causes dehydration in your system because your body's using water to process that coffee. So later on, your stool may become harder. It might be easier to get it out after the coffee in the morning, but you need to really replenish your body with a lot of extra water to keep your body from dehydrating from that caffeine intake. So coffee's fine, but drink a lot of water afterwards. But aside from coffee, what else you can do is sit a 16-ounce bottle of water by your bed, and then in the morning before you even get out, or like if you sit up on the side of your bed, just down that water, and with room temperature water, your body digests it a little bit better, and it stimulates bowel motility, and it's called your gastrocolic reflex, which stimulates a bowel movement. And you'll get the urge to go typically. Another thing you can do is intake warm lemon water. Just warm it up in a little tea kettle or saucepan or whatever and consume that. And the warmness of the fluid will also sit well with your body and help to get things going. And then food-wise, you can consume oatmeal, anything, or rolled oats, anything that's warm and kind of mushy is helpful. You digest it easily. Chewing your food is important, so making sure you're chewing the food and stimulating peristalsis and all that stuff is important. So you can have warm smoothies. I've never had a warm smoothie, but I know there are recipes out there for that. So if you need help in that area, that's something to do. Y'all mentioned if you have any go-to morning foods or fluids that you intake, shoot them up in the comments so other people can see them. And then I will recommend that also to my clients too. So, because I kind of get stuck in my own rut of eating the same stuff. And so it's good to see other ideas. Going back to the fiber intake, I meant to mention smoothies. So a lot of times people have a hard time getting in the fiber during the day. So a good way to get your fiber in and get some other good nutrients in is having at least one smoothie a day. And in your smoothie, I wouldn't pile a ton of things in there. I try to limit it to no more than 4, because you don't want to have like an 8-course meal in a drink. And usually we drink smoothies pretty fast, or I do. So you want to kind of be nice to your body and just ease it into digesting your food. So what I usually do is add like some frozen greens or spinach to it, but steamed sweet potatoes. So you would steam sweet potatoes and then freeze them laying flat, and then once they're frozen, then you can put them in a bag, because if you just put them in a bag while they're still hot, you're gonna have a really hard time breaking them up, speaking from experience. So yeah, steamed cauliflower, frozen, you could stick it in there. You can freeze avocados or just put avocados in there. Any form of fiber that you like and feel is beneficial, you can change it from day to day. But at least one of those, put in your smoothie on top of maybe some blueberries and a banana if you need some sweetness, or forget the banana and add a little honey if you need sweetness, or dates. But just don't overload your smoothie with other extra stuff, especially when it comes to protein powder and things like that. There's so much junk in protein powders, artificial sweeteners, dairy products, tons of whey and all that stuff. So if you need protein, maybe put some nut butter in there, yogurt. Find another way to add that in while you're trying to still regulate your bowels. And then if you like the protein powder, then put it on in there. But flaxseed oil is another good thing to put in there too. It helps to just allow things to slide a little bit easier. It also has a ton of other benefits too. So anyway, smoothies are a great way to get in that fiber so that you keep yourself regular, and just keep the stuff frozen in your freezer, chunk it in a blender, and then you have it. It's a lot easier to put together than what you imagine in your mind. And I still tell myself, I'm like, oh, I don't want to put it in there, but it literally takes like 2 minutes to throw it in there and get it done. So, and that's also another good way to get your water in. So add some water on top of all that stuff and you've got part of your water intake. Okay. The other really important thing too, and this is very hard as a mom, but when you get the urge to have a bowel movement, don't put it off, because when you put it off, stool continues to accumulate in your rectum, and then it's going to place more pressure on your pelvic floor, and then that's going to skew the ability for your brain and your rectum to stimulate an urge to go to the bath, to have a bowel movement. So try not to put off the urge. Don't rush to the bathroom, but just when you gotta go, set aside some time and carry your baby in there or whatever, or put them in their crib for a second and go to the bathroom. Because the longer you put it off, the more likely you're gonna become constipated. So, all right, 7 tips for having good bowel movements. Somebody asked what I'm talking about. I have a pinned post down here. If you can click on it, you can see kind of who I am and all that stuff. But we're talking about bowel health, so especially postpartum. And I'm taking questions at the end. So if you want to just put it out there, if you have any questions, feel free to, and then I'll scroll back through at the end. Okay. Couple of more tips. So say you are constipated, make sure you're doing all of those things I just mentioned, and then you can add in a bowel massage. So when you're welcome. So with bowel massage, I'm going to probably have to show you my gut so you can see it, but I'm going to tilt it down just a little bit. And I have this video on my Instagram feed. It was around Thanksgiving-ish last year, so you'll have to scroll down a little bit, but it's on there. So what you do, these are my mom pants, which I'll tell you about in a second, but you're going to go just to the inside of your pelvic bone. So your pelvic bone's here, so you go just to the inside of that, and then using a couple of fingers, you're going to perform small little circles. You're targeting your colon. So your colon, this is your ascending colon. This is my right side. I'm getting confused because I'm looking at myself oppositely here. But this is my right side. So you always start on the right side because this is your ascending colon, your transverse colon, and then your descending colon, and then your rectum here. So you're going to perform like an ups or a rainbow massage is what I call it. So go just to the inside of your pelvic bone. You're going to do 5 to 10 circles. You want to get about an inch or so in, depending on your tissue depth. So go in about 1 to 2 inches, 5 to 10 small circles. It may be a little bit uncomfortable. You don't want to be in pain to where you're tensing up and your abdominals are not letting you reach that area. So push inward. 5 to have some tenderness. So I'm going to deep breathe. So 5 to 10 circles, and then you follow that all the way up to your ribs here. And then you do the same thing, 10 little circles all the way across. If you feel any pulsating or anything like right along the middle or to the left here, just skip over that part, okay? Because that's your aorta, and you don't want to massage your aorta. So 5 to 10 circles all the way across there till you kind of reach the point where your ribs start to go down. And then you're going to continue that all the way down to your other pelvic bone. And then you're going to go down towards your pubic bone. So a lot of people stop right here, but I think it's important to continue on down because that's where your rectum is, and that's where I think it is beneficial to keep going. Anyway, so you're going to continue your 5 to 10 circles here all the way down, and you can just about where you reach your pubic bone and then come back up, or not come back up, but then you can repeat that like 3 to 5 times depending on your needs. I think it's good to do it daily. It will keep you from getting constipated, but it will definitely help stimulate a bowel movement if you are constipated already. So you can repeat that 3 to 5 times. You're gonna want to get you'll see a nice you'll get nice and red from the pressure if you're able to put enough pressure on there, if you're not too tender. And let's see, what else do I need to tell you about that? If you had a C-section, just be gentle over your scar. If it's super sensitive, avoid those areas if it's touching that area. Oh, thanks for the thumbs up. So just be very gentle around your C-section area scar. The circles shouldn't be big and moving your skin a whole lot. So I don't think it will affect it too much. But as you come down this way, you might be a little bit more gentle, or just skip over that part until you're healed. That's also a good way to, yes, this will be saved for 24 hours unless I mess something up when I'm saving it. But yes, it's going to be saved. I think that's it as far as bowel massage goes. Good to do for anybody, anytime, but especially if you're experiencing constipation. All right. And then the other thing too is that this is good for your babies as well if they're constipated, but laying on your right side will help gravity move that stool on down into your rectum and kind of allow better colon motility if you do some right side lying. So we learned that in PT school, and it's been beneficial and helpful to me my whole life, or since PT school. So that's helpful for if you have a lot of gas too, and if your baby has a lot of gas, that can, right side lying can help get that out of there too. And you can do a little bowel massage on your babies too, just much more gently, obviously. Okay. Oh, let me just tell me about my pants. So, let's see. You start on the right. It's weird because of the mirrored image here, but you always start on the right side. And you can, I don't know how to make you remember that, but yeah, always start on the right, and then you're going to come up and across and then down to your left. If you do it reverse, you're not going to do any damage, but it's better to start on your right since that's the way things move. So my pants, they are from Target, and after I bought them before I was pregnant or anything, but I wore them postpartum because I didn't always want to wear my binder, and these allowed me to be able to go out of the house and not feel like my belly was jiggling around everywhere and I was having to hold it up. But they go up super high and they're a little tight, so I like those, and sometimes I recommend them to patients who have a diastasis or just need the extra abdominal support, I find them helpful. They're assets from Target. I'm sure they have them other places. And there's some fancy brands now that have pants like this for the same reason. But anyway, just a little random tip. So, okay, moving on. So say you have constipation during pregnancy or postpartum, and it's been going on for a while, and you've been having to strain, and you've developed hemorrhoids. It is a reality that none of us want to face, but so many of us do. But there are ways to get past them and get through them. So let me just go back 1 second, because I always have more advice to give, right? But the importance of straining, or the importance of not straining with bowel movements. So when you are straining with a bowel movement, you are placing excessive intra-abdominal pressure downward on your pelvic floor and your pelvic organs. So this is related to having a bowel movement, but it's also with lifting something, it's also with exercise. So if you are straining, and by straining I mean just like bearing down and pushing or holding your breath and doing something, that increases your risk of developing a pelvic organ prolapse or causing more damage to your pelvic floor and causing the onset of hemorrhoids, because you're increasing blood flow to you're just pushing everything out basically when you do that, and not effectively. So then you end up developing hemorrhoids because the action that you're trying to take is not working. You're not helping anything, or you're not making your stool come out by straining, so then other things start to happen. So that's why straining is not good. It causes hemorrhoids. It can lead to pelvic organ prolapse and pelvic floor dysfunction, problems with your C-section scar, abdominal pain. So yeah, just try to avoid it. And with all those things I've talked to you about, that should help eliminate the need to strain. But say the inevitable happened, you pushed a ton with your baby, or just had a really long labor, and you developed some hemorrhoids. So what you can do to help them heal and help give you some rest from them is you can put some just temporary ointment on it, which is, it's not really an ointment, but aloe vera from the plant, not like the after sun aloe vera that you can buy at Walgreens, because that's got a bunch of extra junk in there. So if you can just get some plain old aloe vera and rub it on your hemorrhoids, that will help. And then witch hazel is also another home remedy you can try, because it has anti-inflammatory properties and it can provide some relief. So those are a couple of things you can put on there. When you do use the bathroom, try wiping with wipes instead of toilet paper. Toilet paper can be a bit abrasive and dry, but if you wipe with a wipe, you have a little bit more, you're causing less friction across the hemorrhoids, and you're less likely to irritate them. The wipes I usually recommend are water wipes, and because they just have, sorry, I read a comment there. Water wipes are just plain water and a tiny bit of grapeseed extract. So they're the cleanest wipes I've been able to find. I've used them on my little boy and myself since I found them. So water wipes are my favorite. And let's see. Okay. Then a lot of people do sitz baths, and I think I never did them, but they seem to be effective, and that's one of the things that's the most recommended. But I think something that might be even more effective at decreasing pain and inflammation in your hemorrhoids is doing a cold compress on them, because that will decrease circulation and inflammation, at least temporarily, and hopefully eliminate the irritation there if you do have to have a bowel movement later that day or whatever. So try cold compress, but if you're living by sitz baths and they work for you, I'm not telling you not to do them. I just, my own brain just kind of thinking through this, it seems like cold compress would help maybe to over time a little bit, help heal them a little bit quicker, because sitz baths are warm. So let's see. And then I've got a few more things here. So this is something else you might need to write down if you're taking notes, if you have hemorrhoids or if you're scared you may develop them. You want to find a balance between sitting and moving, because if you're doing a lot of exercise, you're postpartum and you're ready to get outside, you're ready to move, but you're wearing your baby or you're pushing them in the stroller, it's a lot of oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm reading comments. See, I get distracted, but I'll come back and read them again. If you're wearing your baby or you're pushing them in a stroller and you're going outside to exercise, that is going to require maybe some straining or some pushing, or just even an increased blood flow to that area of your body that's maybe not quite ready to support you and your baby on a walk or during exercise. So if you are going on a ton of walks and you are experiencing hemorrhoids, you might just back off on that for a little bit, or find a different way to do it or a different way to exercise to where you're not kind of causing more force downward on your pelvic floor and those hemorrhoids causing increased inflammation. So let me know if that doesn't make sense. And then with sitting, you don't want to sit too much because you want to have a good flow of circulation around your anus and around the hemorrhoid area and your pelvic floor, so that they don't just get stagnant and sit there. You want that blood flow to move out of there. So try to find a good balance between sitting and moving, not doing heavy lifting or, a ton of aggressive movements, but, trying to find that balance, which I know is difficult. And really it's, you don't have a ton of time to sit anyway when you have a baby. But if you're like me and they fall asleep on you, then you just keep holding them for 3 hours or whatever. That's a lot of sitting, or a lot of carrying your baby. I even carried my baby while he slept for 3 hours or so when he was a newborn. So just kind of modifying, have a Swiss ball available or something like that where you can sit down for a second if you're carrying them, and just kind of problem solve through that so that you can find a good balance there. Okay, let me make sure I got everything there. When you are sitting, you can sit on a little pillow, like a neck pillow or something like that, to where there's a little spot for your anus, but that's good and bad. It might help take some pressure off temporarily, but it also deprives that area of circulation. So it's a happy medium. You got to survive, but you also need to help heal those hemorrhoids. So just kind of have a good balance of all of that stuff if you can. If you have questions, feel free to message me at Under the Womanhood over there, wherever it is. Okay, so, and the other thing is wear cotton underwear. Those are the most breathable, using, clean detergent, not with all the extra smells and all that stuff that could cause irritation on your perineum or anus where the hemorrhoids are. So, white cotton underwear with free and clear detergent is the best thing. And then remembering to breathe with your movement, which I kind of talked about a while ago. Make sure you're not straining with lifting or straining with bowel movements. Make sure you're always breathing, always, because otherwise you're going to be continuing to place pressure downward on your pelvic floor and hemorrhoids and causing them to worsen or not get better. Okay, I think that's it. So yeah, if you have constipation and you are pregnant or in the postpartum period and you just cannot get rid of it and it's killing you, please try to find a pelvic health physical therapist in your area, and they can help you problem solve through some of this and your individual impairments. They can look at your ability to bear down effectively. Can you relax your pelvic floor adequately? Do you know how to contract it? They can look at all of these things to help guide you in an individual treatment plan, so that, I'm giving you just generic helpful tips, but none of them may be right for you, or maybe you've tried all that and it's just not working. So pelvic health PT can help you with that. And I'm going to put the website here where you can look up somebody in your area. And I'm not sure that it's worldwide. It might be, let's see, it's pelvicrehab.com. And I believe you just put in like your zip code or your town or whatever, and that will bring up, oops, hang on. Okay, it will help. It will bring up pelvic health physical therapists in your area. If you have questions, just call them, and you can talk to them before you make an appointment. Figure out what you need to be able to see them, and go from there. So, yeah, I think that's all the talking I had to do as far as my information to give you. And we have got 15 minutes, so I will run back through here and look at all the questions and everybody who said hi. And yeah, thank you guys all for coming. I'm so, are those cowboys helmets in the background? Yes, yes. This is my husband's office, so I try to block out most of his decorations, but I don't do a good job. So I'm going to scroll back up and go through some questions. And yeah, if you have questions that you don't feel comfortable asking in front of everybody, feel free to message me or email me over at Under the Womanhood, and I can help you, point you in the right direction or give you some other tips. So I'm going to scroll back up now. Try not to get too close to the screen. Okay, let's see. Thank you guys again for coming on here and listening to me talk about poop on a Monday. Hi from Miami. Awesome. It's so cool to see people from all over the place be able to come on and listen to the same thing. Okay. Sorry, I think I scrolled too far up. I'll get to them in a second. Okay, somebody asked, I have a 7-month-old that goes every other day. Is that okay? Oh, when my kid was around that age, that's kind of when I started experimenting with food, and his bowel movements were all over the place for a while until I kind of became more consistent with his food intake. And you may not be giving him any food, but just in my experience, it's kind of normal around that age for kids' bowel movements to be all over the place. So don't get worried. You can do some of that massage or some of those techniques to help improve his bowel motility, and help him go if he seems like he's having a hard time. But if he's going and it's not hard balls and it's pretty normal consistency and he's not hurting when he goes, that's probably okay. I remember those days too, and I was like, what's wrong? What should I do? And but he's fine. He poops like at least once a day now, usually more. So it will normalize eventually, hopefully. But if it doesn't, definitely talk to your pediatrician about it, or midwife or whoever's caring for your baby. Okay. Okay, so somebody asked, what about the opposite meaning opposite of constipation? During my second pregnancy, I could barely make it to the bathroom. I swear that prepped me for labor. That does happen. Some people do develop like diarrhea and things like that during pregnancy. I don't know if you had diarrhea, but maybe just the inability to control it. So it could be happening for a number of reasons. Our hormones are crazy and they affect us all differently. If you're working out a lot, or if you're drinking a ton of water and getting a ton of fiber, or not getting much at all. I know I'm not giving you a clear answer, but all of those things can just impact our bowel health. And, with those symptoms, I would like to see you individually and kind of look at your diet intake and your behavioral habits and all of that stuff to kind of see what's contributing to that, possibly aside from the hormones in pregnancy. It could be that you have maybe your pelvic floor control is diminished to where you, couldn't cut off the urge enough, or, on top of that, sometimes when we have that significant urge to go to the bathroom and we barely make it there, like the first time that happens, then that gets in our mind to where we are like, oh my gosh, here it comes again, I gotta get there. And then that actually makes your pelvic floor relax, giving you less control. And so I'm just throwing things out here because I don't know exactly why that could be, because it varies so much person to person. But those are a few reasons that could have happened. But if that made your labor fairly easy and delivery, that it's not necessarily a bad thing, I guess. But I know it's something you'd like to be able to control. So if you still have problems with it, I would definitely recommend seeing somebody, a pelvic PT, if you still have issues with it. Okay, let me scroll on down. See, lots of waves. Chelsea said, hydration has made the biggest difference in my bowel movements postpartum. Good. Yes, it does. It really does. Drinking enough water makes all the difference, but I know it's hard to get it in. Just have cups sitting out all over the place. Like, does anybody remember Signs where they just had the glasses of water sitting everywhere? Just recreate that in your house, so you've always got something within reach to down when you need to. All right. Hi, all these people. Oh, Brittany, it's okay. I preface that I do get distracted when I read comments, so it's okay. Okay, there's the Yarrow or Jarrow probiotics that I recommend. And then Jen asked, lots of water increases breast milk as well. How much water do you recommend a day? I usually recommend starting at half your body weight in ounces and then go from there. Probably you need more than that, but there can be weird things with water intake as far as your electrolyte balance goes and all that stuff. So I just always hesitate to tell you to drink a ton of water, but at least start at half your body weight in ounces. And if that's not doing the job, then just increase it from there. But half your body weight in ounces, what I usually recommend. Okay, someone else asked, I eat a very high fiber diet, 40 to 70 grams a day. That's amazing. How much water should I be drinking as a 200-pound breastfeeding woman who exercises 3 to 5 times a week? Oh my goodness. That's hard to say, but a lot of water. Just based on how much fiber you're getting and how much you're exercising. And then if you're in your breastfeeding too, you're going to need a ton of water to replenish what you're outputting, and what that fiber is doing to your stool. If you're not having any issues with your bowel movements or your urine being too concentrated and things like that, then I'd say you're probably doing a pretty good job of drinking the amount of water that you're getting already. But if you are having issues with constipation, you might ask your doctor about it, or your midwife, somebody who kind of knows your history a little bit better and can take a deeper history of your symptoms and all of that. But I mean, definitely starting at half your body weight in ounces, but then probably going up from there for sure, just because of the amount of energy that you're burning off and all of that. But exercising is actually going to help your bowel motility, so that's good too. So that's kind of counteracting how much fiber you get as well. So anyway, but a lot of water. That's a really good question, and good for you for eating all that fiber and exercising. That's amazing. Okay, and then same person. Here's a follow-up comment. I believe I have fissures and bowel movements are super painful. I tore to a 3rd degree, and I think my scar tissue is affecting it. Okay, so you definitely have some symptoms and kind of need to figure out your bowel habits and all of that. So yes, there are a ton of tips I can give you. I would definitely work through the tips that I gave earlier in the video, and work through those and see if you're doing all of those consistently. And if nothing's changing and you're still having a lot of pain, or just even if you are doing those things and working on that, I would recommend going ahead and mentioning it to your provider, or just calling a pelvic health PT in your area so that they can give you some really individually based treatment ideas. So with a 3rd degree tear, definitely that's going to affect your pelvic floor's ability to contract and relax and allow bowel movements to move appropriately. So pelvic health PTs can help you work on that scar tissue to help improve its elasticity. And so scar tissue is just a big jumbled up mess of collagen. So with the appropriate massage that on the scar, we can help it kind of spread out and lay down more parallel so that it can move a little easier. But if it's all jumbled up like this, there's going to be some dysfunction in your pelvic floor muscle activation. So anyway, so seeing a pelvic health PT would help see, is the scar tissue affecting your bowel habits, and what can we do about it if it is. So I would get some help. And if you can't find anybody, I might have said this already, if you can't find someone in your area, please let me know, and I will ask some groups that I'm a part of to see if there's somebody in your area. Okay. I posted the link to finding a pelvic health therapist is pelvicrehab.com. There's other sites too, but I find that that's kind of the most the easiest to get to, and has a ton of PTs on there. So let me know. Okay. Let's see. I think I answered this, but this will be saved for 24 hours, so you can come back and watch it. Oh, thank you. Don't mess up. I'm glad that y'all get me here. Okay. And then again, with the bowel massage, you always start on the right side and then move all the way down to the left, like a rainbow. But the rainbow starts, maybe this is a way to remember it. Rainbow starts on the right. So come up the right side, across, and then down. Okay. Yes, clockwise circles. Baby Mommy Talk said, I'm literally going through it. My baby is 2 months old and literally it doesn't go away. I think I was probably talking about hemorrhoids at that part. Feel free to message me and work through those things that I mentioned and see if that helps you out. And if it doesn't, if you're confused about any of those things, send me a message and we can problem solve, or I can send you to a resource, hopefully in your area, to help you address your individual needs. Okay. So someone said, do you have any tips on starting? Oh, okay. You asked that and then, okay. Somebody asked about Legendary Milk products and then she saw the post. So yes, if you have Legendary Milk questions, you can email Luna at info@legendarymilk.com. Hey from Grand Prairie. That's not very far. In Vancouver, Canada. Amazing. Hello. Thanks for the poop emoji. Jen, that's cute. Okay, let's see. Okay. Corey asks, what might be the cause of postpartum GERD or acid reflux? One with postpartum, exclusively breastfeeding, never had it before now. That's a really good question. There could be a number of things. So if you're wearing a binder or anything like that, that could be kind of compressing your esophageal motion, or your valves and all of that stuff, and kind of forcing things back up. So if you are eating and you are wearing a binder, make sure that you're sitting up straight so that's not all just squished down in here. Go bra free, like free it all, free the area, so that nothing is pushing extra on that area of your body. I don't know, could you be consuming different food now that you've had the baby that you didn't beforehand? I'm trying to think what else. If you're lying down a lot more with the baby, then your body may not be digesting the food quite as well. Like if you're breastfeeding on your side, or you're just resting a lot more on your side or your back with your baby, that might be why your food's not digesting as well. I mentioned earlier that laying on your right side is good for bowel movements and helping that stool to evacuate, and gas as well. But for reflux, it's really great to lay on your left side. It helps almost immediately. So if you lay on your left side, that allows that food to move into your stomach this way versus coming back up if you're laying on your other side or sitting up. So lying down on your left side, elevate it a little bit if possible. That will help with the GERD. But I'm not sure why it's happening all of a sudden, except for those things I just threw out. If you have more questions, let me know. Ooh, I have 2 minutes remaining. It just gave me a warning. Let's see if I can get through these next questions. My baby girl is 3 weeks old and she's constipated, gets pooping small balls, but what can I do or give her? That's hard. I would really make sure you're getting adequate water and not much dairy during the day, because that dairy can make them super bloated and constipated. So try decreasing your dairy intake if possible, and continue to drink a ton of water. You can move their little legs around, just kind of bend their knees and move them towards their tummy a little bit. And you can also try like a baby bowel massage, just really, really gentle movement around their tummy to see if you can start moving some things. And also laying them on their right side might help with that. Okay. Let's see. Which probiotic do I recommend? It's JARROW, but definitely check the ingredients and make sure that there's nothing in there that you're intolerant to. There are some other good ones out there, but I just have always been recommended by my midwife and a naturopathic doctor to take JARROW. I don't know if it's Yarrow or Jarrow. I wrote it in the comments somewhere, so if you have, you can always look back at that if you need to. Jen says, is a gallon a day too much? Probably not. Like you said, that's what my midwife recommended to me, and I tried to get it in. I couldn't always do it, but yeah. From New York, hello. Okay. Oh my goodness. I will try to address these other questions on my stories at Under the Womanhood, because I'm not able to get to all of them. So Denise, I will address yours, and then whoever else is after that. Thank you so much for having me. I will talk to you next month. Bye.